Deputy Minister, we are very honored by your presence and from the very capable team from the ministry. As you can tell from today's Shape the World Summit, I'm happy to say that I will not be asking all the questions. I only ask one question to the Deputy Minister, and I'll leave the floor open. What we have been trying to do for Shape the World Summit is to bring a wide variety of experts, policy makers, investors. So to the Deputy Minister, I think everyone is curious. What is Sarawak's sweet sauce or vision for sustainability policy? And what are the challenges you see? Deputy Minister, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. A very good evening. Assalamualaikum. And welcome to Sarawak for those who are from outside Sarawak. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you for being still around in this summit, even though it is already 7 p.m. in Kuching. Well, in Oslo, it's only about 12 noon. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think the main reason why we are all here is we want to shape the world. Why? Because of the threat from climate change. If there's no climate change, I don't think we'll all be here. You'll be outside there playing football or golf or spending time with our family. But climate change is actually a natural phenomenon. Yeah, it's a natural phenomenon. It has been happening for billions of years through volcanic eruptions, through meteorite activities, through solar accidents, and through the ocean currents and waves. So it is a natural phenomenon. But what happened in the last 200 years? In the last 200 years, climate change worsened exponentially, because of industrialization, because we use the wrong type of energy. We use fossil, we use gas, and even to a certain extent, nuclear. So that was the reason. A lot of carbon has been emitted since the 1800s, and carbon, which actually is carbon dioxide. It's not carbon, it is carbon dioxide and the other greenhouse gases like methane, nitrogen, sulfur, and so on. Who is the culprit that is causing global warming? Because the carbon dioxide gas molecule is a gas which can hold the most amount of heat. Okay, so that is why global warming happens when more carbon dioxide is released in the air. The other gas that can hold a lot of heat is methane. Yeah, but methane is a short-term gas that can carry and hold a lot of heat, probably within 10 years. But after that, the long-term carrier of heat is carbon dioxide. So the main culprit is easy, we know, is carbon dioxide and methane to a certain extent. So what do we do? There are various strategies, and one of it that has been taken or initiated by the Sarawak government is by taking an active role or playing an active role in climate change mitigation, and at the same time, the strategies towards that mitigation process can generate new income, new revenues, or rather new economy. I think that is the second reason why we are all here. It's a new economy. It's a problem that we need to solve, but it can also create new economy for all the players in this sustainability business. So Sarawak has formed this ministry, which is called the Ministry of Energy and Environmental Sustainability, only in January last year. It's only about 17 months old. And Why? Because we know that we have the resources, we have the natural package, whereby we have a big landmass, which is almost half of Malaysia, and 62% of that landmass is made up of forests, including peat and mangrove. So that means we have a lot of carbon stock in our forests, and we know how much carbon stock that we have. It is roughly between 750 million tons, and the maximum could be around 1 billion tons. Yeah? And then at the same time, we are located outside the ring of fire. That means we are in a very stable location in the world, whereby we can carry out carbon capture, usage and storage, CCUS. Yeah? And we have about 1,600 depleted oil wells where we can store the carbon that has been captured, either forever or now there are technologies to make use of the carbon. If we mix it with microalgae, we can produce high quality fuel, which is called the sustainable aviation fuel, yeah, which we have proven already in the last few weeks. And in the world, there are only 3 places that can store carbon. One is the Northern Lights in Norway, 2 is somewhere in USA, Houston, and 3 is in the Sarawak waters. The only 3 most stable places in the world. The other thing is we are blessed with a lot of rivers. We have almost 300 rivers. And on these rivers, we are able to develop our hydroelectricity. And we started in the 80s at Batang Air, and then Bakun, Murum, Baleh, and a few more will be coming soon. Yeah? And also we can go into cascading dam and also micro dam. So that means we can fully utilize our rivers. And also on top of the reservoirs, we can fix our floating solar. That means we can upscale our hydroelectricity supply. Yeah? And also recently, we have ventured with Indonesia to build a new dam in North Kalimantan, which is about half the size of Bakun. And there will be another 4 or 5 such dams in Northern Kalimantan. That means Borneo itself will be a future power grid, a future green energy grid. Yeah? And other than that, we are also doing the other strategies like circular economy, which I think Dr. Philip just now shared with us on his personal experience of farming, a modern scientific way of doing farming, which is very good. That is the micro strategies. Yeah? But if a lot of our population carry out that kind of micro efforts or strategies, it will contribute to the lowering of carbon emission. Yeah? However, in the industrial level, Sarawak has already embarked in the circular economy. Number 1 is our recycling of used tires. Yeah, we have a factory in Kuching, which is already more than 10 years old. We are recycling about more than 1 million tires a year into rubber crumbs, which can be used for making these rubber mats. And now we are going into rubberized roads. Yeah? And number 2 is our recycling of waste water, which can be recycled into fertilizer, bricks, and so on. And we also have got a program of recycling electronic waste throughout Sarawak, and we can export these electronic waste because you know in the IC of our electronic devices, there are precious metals there. Yeah? So these are amongst the things that we have done. However, once the ministry was set up last year, we immediately worked on a few things. Number 1 is the legislation. Because to carry out carbon trading, carbon credit, and also carbon storage, we need proper legislation. That's why in May last year, we amended two laws, two ordinances. One is the Land Code, the other one is the Forest Ordinance. The Land Code is for us to be able to carry out carbon storage, and the Forest Ordinance is for us to enable carbon trading and also carbon credit business to be carried out in Sarawak. And after that, we managed to come up with the rules, regulations, and also the licensing for carrying out carbon trading and also carbon storage. And we are the first state in Malaysia, or even the first country in this region to have legislation, proper legislation, because we want to avoid all those scammers, illegal trading, double counting, and so on. That's why the very good point by one of the speakers was on blockchain. Blockchain is the way to avoid double counting. Yeah, that is one of the ways. Okay, I think that's about all as a whole. But and also we are now working on other ordinances. For example, the carbon ordinance and also the hydrogen ordinance, because we are also producing hydrogen by the fact that we have green energy and we have a lot of water and sunshine. And also we are going into the energy security ordinance, which includes hydrogen ordinance, oxygen ordinance, and so on. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. As I said this afternoon at the start, it is clear that Sarawak has a full system from regulation, from strategy, in collaboration, and also here we have Encik Iqmal for Head of Energy, and also we have Encik Tahir, who is Head of Project Development. And now, in order to maximize our time, I'd like to open it up to questions to everyone in the audience. Would anyone like to ask a burning question that you have in order to help bring this session to a wonderful close? Anyone? The mics in the center. You can introduce yourself and fire away. Food cannot be, yes, please. Yes, sir, please.
That's Sarawakian.
Yes.
Yeah. Question to YB Datuk, Deputy Minister, and the panel. I listened with interest about this trees and forests, planting trees and forests. So with my lack of scientific knowledge, I just like to pose a question. You know that trees are good carbon observer and storage. But forests also have metabolism, just like us. So in other words, forests can reach an equilibrium where they are also carbon neutral. In other words, trees are not simply a sink of carbon from the atmosphere, but also release carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere. So my question lies on, if you plant a lot of trees in large scale, in plantation or in forest, is it effective in this carbon issue? Wouldn't it be more effective if we direct those trees to where it is needed? For example, obviously in factories where it's producing a lot of carbon and other gases, in cities where you've got a lot of emission from, and even in houses. I last week was with YB Datuk in the IEW and spoke to this mayor of Bong Tan, which is a city not far from Samarinda in Kalimantan. So he was greening, he was talking about greening his city. And one of the things that he did was making all the newly wedded couple as a compulsory to plant the trees before they get a registration certificate. So it's really getting down to the mass scale because we question about effectiveness. So another one, just to wipe it up, I'm also curious about this using algae as a fuel, but that is still using the combustion engine. So I know that the energy is clean, but when you go through the combustion engine, after it come out, wouldn't it also still emit gases? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think those questions are very advanced questions. I thought I will put that to the last. But on the trees, I agree with you. It should be planted more and more and more, especially in the areas that are required to reduce carbon emission. That is very logical. And even, like Polonia is the fastest carbon absorber. It can absorb 100 times faster than normal trees. Yeah, 100 times faster. Mangrove can store 3 times more carbon. Mangrove. In Sarawak, we have a lot of mangrove. Yeah? So you can calculate the amount of carbon stored. That's why we roughly estimated that Sarawak has about maximum about 1 billion tons of carbon stock. Yeah? But I forgot just now to mention on our CCUS, out of the 1,665 depleted oil wells, if we store all the carbon from any other countries inside those depleted wells, our potential estimated capacity is 9 billion tons. That means for Sarawak, it is CCUS. It's not so much on forest. In fact, Sarawak is carbon negative. Yeah, we are now still carbon negative because 62% of Sarawak landmass is covered by forests. And we don't have that many heavy industries except in Bintulu. Yeah? The other thing about RE, that is already touching on the policy of electric vehicle, yeah? EV and so on. You are true, especially in areas that do not have green energy. If you use EV, electric vehicle, and you charge it, and yet your energy is not RE, then the effect is not as great as in Sarawak. In Sarawak, our electricity is hydro. So that's the difference. If you charge in Semenanjung, let's say, the energy mix is RE is much lower. Sarawak is 70%, hydro 70%. And then the other thing, that's why for Sarawak, the EV policy is not battery EV. Yeah, it's not battery EV because battery, number one, we are not sure of the production of the battery, which type of energy is used to produce the battery. And then the other problem will be the disposal of the battery later on, which is toxic. Lithium is toxic. So that's why Sarawak is going straight to hydrogen FCEV. So we are using hydrogen because we have green energy, hydro, and we have a lot of water. And for hydrogen, it is not the hydrogen gas that is going to be used in the ICE. It is the electron that is carried by the hydrogen atom, which will produce electricity to power the vehicle. And you know, hydrogen is green if it is produced in Sarawak. There are different colors of hydrogen, gray, blue, pink, binuclear, and so on. So Sarawak is green hydrogen. And then the density of hydrogen is 3 to 5 times more than fossil. The only problem now is the price of hydrogen, which is still high, is due to the process of splitting the hydrogen and oxygen, which depends on the electrolyzer. But we are working on the electrolyzer to produce cheaper materials that is being used in the electrolyzer, and we have succeeded. Previously, it was 60 kilowatt hour to produce 1 kilogram of hydrogen, and it costs about 18 USD per kg. Now we have brought it down to about 40 kilowatt hour, which is almost half the price. Of course, the world standard, the world target is in the next few years will be 1-to-1, which is 1 USD per kg of hydrogen. Yeah, that is the world standard. I think Iqmal can share some
Yeah.
of our energy
I think,
initiatives?
yeah, because of
Yeah.
the time, because the premier is coming. So, yeah, I think first of all, I want to thank Deputy Minister, for your very detailed explanation and sharing of the insights. I've always been very impressed by the Sarawak government. You are very clear with the details at the back of your hand, and so I don't think that was challenging. So if I can invite just every panel member, starting from Inche, just one word. What is your wish for Sarawak's pathway towards sustainability? Each one, just one word, and we close with the final word, one word from the minister, and then we will close the panel for today. Yes,
I'm not going to be original, so I'm going to say partnership.
partnership. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Partnership with Singapore.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Sarawak is pioneer. Pioneer
Okay.
for this carbon trading.
Yes.
Pioneer. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And Minister, please.
For
yes.
me, we need global collaboration
Okay.
to achieve the whole target of reducing carbon emission. If only Sarawak is doing it, it will not be possible. If only Malaysia were to do it, it's also not possible. So we need the whole 195 countries in the world who agreed to the Paris Agreement 2015 to really back up and carry out whatever pledges that they have pledged in reducing carbon emission. But sad to say, most of the countries are very slow in changing. That's why the last thing that I want to share with everybody, because it seems that the tone of of the speakers just now is more towards carbon trading and so on, how to carry out and so on. That's why in the latest discussion that we had, I just came back from London and Oslo last week. It is so difficult to make sure that hydrocarbon is being reduced in the world, but it's not easy. It's very, very difficult. So that means there will be still hydrocarbon in the next 10 or 20 years produced in the world. And it is quite difficult for us to achieve 30-40% reduction even by 2030. So what is the method that we are going to use? We cannot depend on the trees and forests. That is not very accurate, and it's very subjective. So the other method is through technical base. There are two methods of reducing carbon emission. One is nature-based, which is through the forest, through capping and so on. The other one is technical-based, which I mentioned just now is CCUS, because now we have the technology to capture carbon in any industrialized zone. I think Singapore will be doing it soon. And we can store the carbon in liquid form into our depleted oil wells. That is the most effective way of reducing carbon emission anywhere in the world. Yeah, so that's why Norway, US, Canada, UK, and now Sarawak is actively going towards CCUS. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And that's why I would say we made the right choice to come to Sarawak, to learn from Sarawak, your strategies. And this is indeed the place. In fact, tonight, the Premier is being asked, and in his closing keynote for the entire summit, why Sarawak is the future in its contribution to fight climate change and sustainability in the age of AI. Thank you so much, Minister and the honorable gentlemen. Thank you, everyone.